The one that we probably debated the most, well, I'd say that most of the chapters went between 37 and 47 drafts, and some were completely scrapped and rewritten 2 or 3 times. I'd say chapter 7 was the one that probably was the most.
Yeah. The behavioral chapter is one where we spent a lot of time trying to get that right, and Paul had this brilliant insight that there's a difference between behavioral economics applied to an individual and to a market. And he coined a phrase one day. He said, micro behavioral finance is the individual, and macro behavioral finance is at the market level. And the moment he kind of added that to our discussion, it all fell into place very quickly. And the question you're asking yourself is, does behavioral really bubble up to the crowd? And once we got pieces in place, that made sense. But do keep in mind that we wrote this book for 4 years. In all due respect, it was, yeah, we ended up with the obvious, I agree. It wasn't a straight line. Both of us thought, or I certainly thought, we could write a book writing a couple hours a week for 18 months and we would be fine, since we both taught the material and we've been doing this a long time. And at the end of 15 months, realized we had nothing. I mean, literally nothing. There was nothing left in the book from those first 15 months, at which point we spent a year arguing. And we argued every day like a well-functioning marriage.
Like, when did we stop arguing?
And I hung up on him 3 times, and I killed the project twice. And this is a young crowd, but I said, you know, take your fucking book. And he was persistent. At the end of a year, after arguing, we realized we had something interesting. And then we wrote for a year. At the end of that year, we rewrote for 7 months. And the one thing we're probably most proud of the book is that it reads well. And we get this feedback from enough people now. It's not really meant as an arrogant statement, but it reads really well. That was the last 7 months. Because we woke up in January of this year, February, and I thought we were done for the 3rd time. And we started reading it, realized we had a Frankenstein in our hand. One section, really, the first section kind of worked pretty well. Second section worked by itself pretty well. Third section, that's down here, had nothing to do with the rest of the book. And then the 4th section was sort of hanging out, flapping around. And we rewrote the book from the beginning to the end 3 times. And continued to work on it. And then finally, our good friends at Wiley called us up and said, you're done. And like, no, we're not. And they said, you're done. And I said, no, we're not. But we had gotten to the point where the edits were a word here, a word there every 3rd page. So we would have edited forever, but they finally did it. But the thing I think I'm most proud about is that it's a fun read. This is different than a finance book. This will not put you to sleep. You'll want to see how the story ends.
Yeah, and I guess we haven't heard from a lot of people that they didn't like it, and like, you know, not that I have that many friends, but they're pretty blunt. So, and they're not afraid to sugarcoat.
So I think that, and I brought this back up because we supposed to focus on 5, a little bit of 6. There's some really cool stuff in the rest.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the very beginning of this presentation, you said that active management is really dead, and you both agreed to it.
No, I said I thought it had a.
Well, active
late in its life.
management was never
Wait,
alive.
There's a second factor. But then you wrote a book on pitching a perfect investment. So how do you marry the 2 concepts?
Because if you're dumb enough to go into this business, we're gonna like if you're dumb enough to go into a casino, like eventually you will lose all of your money.
They're selling the shovels to the gold miners, basically.
So what we're saying is that this will keep you in the game a lot longer. In terms of active management, the statistics from the Cowles Commission in 1923 that no one outperforms over long periods of time. So like you go over the last 40 years, like what we say is, kid graduates from college at 22, no one in their right mind is going to give them money until they're in the early 30s. If they retire in the mid-70s, which no one does, that's a 40-year career. Okay, over the last 40 years, how many people have outperformed? A couple dozen, a couple hundred. You're not talking thousands, and you're certainly not talking tens of thousands. So like, we think that the market's going to be more efficient, less efficient in the next 40 years, or more efficient. So it's not, is active management dead? It was never alive.
However, every day, you're getting a sense of what it's like in my world. And the fact that, Yeah, the fact is that it's a really cool career. It's the most intellectually challenging career, the most interesting people you ever meet, the most challenging problems you'll ever do. It pays well, it has at least historically, it probably will continue to pay well. People are going to be drawn to the business for the next 20 years, the next 30 years. And
So you go to a casino to have fun, not to make money. Same
so
thing with Wall Street.
we think hope springs eternal, and people will always active manage because of it. We wrote this book partially because we had to. We had to get it out. Partially, we think we added some value to the world. We think the world's a little bit better place because of it, and we think that people coming into the business are going to be more effective. So, not everybody's going to read the book. We'd like them to, but not everybody's going to read the book. And we think the people who read the book will have a bit of an edge. So we're out telling them. We are not going to get rich on this book. We figured that out. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So all things being equal, I know earlier you guys had mentioned the difference between hard and soft catalysts. Which, given your framework here, which would you be more comfortable approaching as an idea?
Soft catalyst. I'm a huge believer in soft catalyst.
People always overpay for hard catalysts.
Yeah, I think the soft catalyst is where the action is.
I don't like using the word always, but in this day and age with the number of hedge funds that are event-driven hedge funds, whenever there's a hard catalyst, you have more eyes than looking at the stock than you've ever had, and the ones that have the soft catalyst that they continue to compound earnings or whatever the case may be, those ones continue to outperform the market because everyone's focused on all the hard catalysts.
So I think compounding, we're not good at nonlinear. We're just not wired as a species to do nonlinear. And what Noah said is compounders over time continue to foil the world. They can't figure them out for some reason. Yeah.
Well, just a quick question. I think most of the discussion so far has been essentially on the fundamental side of the equation. Do you have anything in the book on the technical side?
None. It was already, number one, we're not experts, but that didn't slow us down. And then number two, it's already like 420 pages. At some point we had to stop writing, had to finish the movie. Go ahead.
No, sorry. This is coming entirely different. Like, how do you guys think about cryptocurrencies? Just your gut view from.
That's something I spent a lot of time, I'm happy to talk about. It's off topic. I have some insights that might surprise you, but why don't we take that afterwards?
Long or short?
Neither. It's Amazon. There'll be a day where the world realizes it's a fraud, but until then, ride the wave. We're getting the signal. What?
One second, Jeff. You want to kind of wrap this up?
All right, so you said, what, 15 more questions? All right, in the back. Yes.
You mentioned about AI and also the application of artificial intelligence, and obviously we're using deep learning for a lot of things right now, and obviously financial service should be hopefully the next step. Now you mentioned, Paul, on the right, that the machines are not there. The machines will get there eventually, or is there something fundamentally different to predict stock prices? Machines will become so smart to do that, or you don't see a future?
I think it's...
there? Even though hedge funds are trying to do that.
Yeah, I think that you framed the question, I framed the question slightly differently. What AI, neural nets, machine learning are fantastic are is just deep patterns. And the more layers to the net you have, the more patterns you can see, the more nuance you can see. And investing isn't about pattern recognition, as much as that gets thrown around, because the patterns don't repeat, not in that same way. It's like you're trying to identify a cat, but the cat changes over time. Neural nets will never keep up. But there are parts of this that I think they can be very, very effective, and they will be. And that's what Paul's comment, machine plus man plus machine. But we've always been, you wouldn't go to battle without a Bloomberg or a terminal, you wouldn't go without a PC, and you wouldn't go without, this is just an evolution of the technology you're using.
Long-term
people
capital
throw
management
around...
proved what you just said, too.
I'm sorry?
Long-term capital management proved what you just said.
Okay.
So people throw around this term pattern matching. Pattern matching is where you find a fingerprint and you're trying to find the exact same fingerprint. So what you're doing on Wall Street is not pattern recognition. People, they mislabel it. What it's called is analogical reasoning and analogical mapping, where you're mapping a current situation to a schema that you have. That is really difficult for a machine to do. I was just reading a book. Who's the guy that wrote Feynman's Rainbow?
I can't pronounce his last name.
Okay, so it's called Subliminal, and I don't know what the guy's last name is, but the book was written a few years ago, and he says, like, they're just getting to a point where machine vision can tell a dog from a cat. Now, a baby can tell the difference between a dog and a cat. So, you know, it's not, pattern matching, machines are great at it, and analogical mapping, not all that good at it.
And that's literally what Noah was talking about earlier. All right, I guess we have time for 2 more questions. I saw 2 hands go up. Yes, sir.
There's an article in the FT, I think last week or before, about the concept of a long-term stock exchange, meaning they would get rid of quarterly earnings, they would, you can't buy and sell as much frequently. What do you
This
thoughts
is
on
just
that?
the most nonsensical, not you're saying it, I apologize. We're not killing the message. It's just the most nonsensical thing I've heard ever is this whole notion. In the valuation chapters, we talk about this. I can give you a thought experiment, it takes 15 seconds on show you it's better visual than not, that the market is shockingly long-term oriented. How do we know? And Netflix has never made money. Amazon's never earned its cost of capital. I mean, the sort of notion the market is short-term oriented and focused, it's just, the counterfactuals are so overwhelming, I have trouble even accepting that this is a logical question.
Reporters, they're in the business to sell papers, and they don't necessarily know what they're writing about. So, like, I read the Wall Street Journal in the morning, like, just to find the absolute stupidest stories that I can, and then I blog on them. So it's
just nonsensical. The market functions shockingly well.
So a story like that does not surprise me, because it's just writing to sell papers, say something that's very sensational, and the person writing it probably doesn't know what they're talking about.
By the way, all the academic work shows that the short term comes from management, not investors. It's management that's driven by short term, generally incentive systems, not investors. So, I mean, this is something we can talk more about. It's just something I just find shocking that it continues to pop its head up. Oh yeah, we have time for one more question though. I bought us time for one more question, and there was a hand up, but we
He
don't have
doesn't
to take
appear to be
it.
that stressed out yet. I'm
No,
monitoring him to
yeah.
see, like,
The
yeah, he still has a
micro-expressions,
smile.
right?
Yeah.
He's still thinking the crowd's into it.
No, you know, I just kind of want to wrap things up.
Okay, so why don't you give a plug for the book? We have some books.
Oh, okay. So we thought that people might want to purchase some books, so we brought a limited amount that we will have available for purchase. Evidently, there are book police here, so we're just going to say that you pre-ordered it and are picking it up. And
We're very clever.
we're willing to sign them, but it's just as an accommodation to you guys, we brought some with us because, as Paul said, we really don't make that much.
We don't make any money on the book. I don't know why we're.
You know,
making
it
bucks.
costs more for us to get them from Wiley than it does for us to buy them on Amazon.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just pathetic. My very
Publishers
dear
make
friend
a lot of
Miles has
money.
been in the book publishing business forever. He let me write this book without telling me that people don't make money running books. So that's a good friend. All right, we would talk all night about the book. We love the book. We're very into the book. We'll stay as long as you guys have questions. We appreciate
and
everybody.
go to the website, sign up if you want a copy of the slide presentation.
Or
Again,
the other
just
30 that we've come up with.
Email us on the website. There are a lot of other lectures that we've given that are videotaped. We have a blog. You can download a sample chapter from the book.
We have a podcast coming out in 2 weeks, so we'd love to engage in anyone. Thank you for your patience, your questions, your interest. Thank you. Elliot, you were insurance.